Okay, today we're going to talk about meditating to get in touch with our intuition, with higher guidance, with our gut instincts, with our inner knowing. Maybe even some remote viewing. I don't know, it might get crazy. What you'll need is a journal or a piece of paper and a pen and a comfortable place to sit for a little while. Let's get into it. Okay, I'm super excited about this because I feel like if there's anything that humans can do to become like truly the better version of themselves, I know people say that and that's kind of annoying, but really to become the better version of yourself is to trust your inner knowing and trust any guidance that you receive from universal consciousness. But I'm sure you've had a gut instinct once and you felt this like urge to do something or not to do something. And it was right. There have been so many times in my life when I have felt a gut instinct and I didn't follow it, and I learned that lesson the hard way. But there were other times where I felt that gut instinct and I followed it, and it turned out to be actual higher guidance somehow. So this one time I was meditating and I had this sudden urge that I would need to know how to defend myself. Not what you want to get out of a meditation, right? You want to be like totally zened out, but instead it was like, you're going to need to know how to fight. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I called my brother who had done some martial arts and stuff, and he taught me ways to defend myself. And 3 days later, I got jumped. It was like one of the scariest moments of my life. But because I trusted that instinct, I was able to defend myself and I came out relatively unscathed. So trust and allow what comes through to you. But how many times do we get some sort of sensation we're like, I'm just crazy? So what happens is we have to actually practice trusting. We have to actually practice listening for our inner knowing, higher guidance, communication with the universal consciousness, communication with God. However way makes you feel comfortable. It is a supernatural human trait, but also absolutely attainable if we practice. Learn to discern what is just your mind and what is actual guidance. And then we actually follow through with the guidance that you get. Now there's a concept. That's maybe the hardest part. For me, the hardest part has been allowing. Trusting and allowing. So I get these hits, I get these gut instincts, I get this intuitive knowledge, but I've practiced over, it's been about 16 years that I've been practicing, and I'm going to share a story with you that may just blow your mind because it still blows mine when I think about it. I once remote viewed to find land to buy, just like the CIA where they like pulled people in for experiments and trained them to remote view for like spy material. I once remote viewed. I asked for guidance in a meditation. I asked for very specific things. I wanted some land that I could buy, that I could afford with my husband. That was a tough one. I wanted it to be a safe haven for my kids. Ideally have a fresh water source and also be far enough to drive to that there's a change of scenery, but not be so far that we would never want to drive it. So this was my criteria. I'm in a meditation. I'm asking for this. Suddenly I started getting a visual in my mind's eye. So just like a picture appearing with my eyes closed, but in my mind, right? That's how it appears for me, this sort of higher guidance. So this picture appears that looks like Oklahoma. I start drawing it, but then I get Georgia. And I'm like, I immediately start going, well, this doesn't look like Georgia. This looks like Oklahoma. And in my mind, I'm kind of like washing the guidance away, washing the visual away. And it was getting a little shakier, and I was doubting the whole thing. Then I got 250 acres, and I'm like, come on. I can't afford 250 acres. Like, what is this? Is my mind just like imagining things? And that's always what happens to me. Intuition comes in and I say, is my mind imagining this or is this real? And you have to ask follow-up questions. You get more clear, precise guidance. So I also got Creek Crossing with a capital C. Creek Crossing, Georgia, 250 acres. I got a G name. So I start going, is it Gary? Is it Georgina? I know a Georgina. I just start making it more difficult for myself the entire time. So it goes away. I start Googling things. I'm looking up Creek Crossing, Georgia. Nothing's coming up. I'm looking up the shape of this map. I also drew like this V shape in it and a star where X marks the spot. And I can't find this. And I start talking to my brother about this, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I've been doing really well trusting my guidance, and then this happened, and it doesn't make any sense. And he goes, well, maybe it's a county line. And I was like, sure enough, I look up the Georgia county lines, and there's a county that looks like Oklahoma. I zoom in, there's a V shape inside that county. I zoom into that area where I marked the star, and I start finding properties on Zillow all around there. I call 10 agents. None of them call me back except for one named Glenda, who the G name that I never would have thought of. I go and my husband's like, yeah, sure, let's go. He's all about when I get these intuitive hits. So we go up to Georgia, we meet with Glenda, we visit some properties, but nothing's really like feeling right. I'm even tuning in at the properties to try to see, like, is this the one? And I wasn't getting it. So we're leaving a little bit disappointed, and Glenda goes, well, actually, I just came across a property on my desk this morning that's not yet on the market. Do you mind if I bring you to see it? So we go, we love this place, but it's in a gated community, and I'm like, I don't know. It's probably out of our price range. I just don't know. I've never lived in a gated community before with HOA fees and all this. So we're getting all stressed out about it. We're leaving thinking like, oh, what a bummer that this whole trip was nothing when I thought that there was something big coming out of this. Glenda says she'll get us the price. We leave, we drive back down to Florida. As soon as we get home in Florida, my husband gets a ping in his email from ancestry.com that says that he's Native American. And his family always said he was Native American, but now it's suddenly showing up in his blood. So we're like, oh, we're so excited. We're mapping it out. We're finding where his people were, and his people were right in this area that we were looking. So now I'm starting to think like, well, maybe this was guidance from his ancestors. So then we're looking up this community where the land is. Wouldn't you know, the community is 250 acres, just what I wrote down from the beginning. I wasn't going to be buying that 250 acres, but the whole community was 250 acres, and it's wrapped around by the Coosawattee River. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to look up what the Coosawattee River means in the native tongue. And it means where the creeks cross. And I wrote creek crossing. So all this to say, don't doubt the information that comes in. It might not make sense to you, and that's okay. Just receive, trust, allow. Receive during our meditation today and see what happens. You have to practice in that trusting, in that allowing. That is the hardest part for me. And then later you can totally overanalyze everything that you write down, okay? But write down everything that comes to you. We're going to try this together. And by the way, since the property wasn't yet put on the market, it was just the right price that we could afford it. So it just was unbelievable. I'm telling you this story because it is the gem of the things. I meditate almost every day, and I don't always get things like this. A lot of times I meditate and I get a lot of song ideas. I'm a songwriter, and that's mostly where my song ideas come from. But sometimes really small questions I'll meditate on, and I'll say like, is this a good choice for me today? Is this a good choice for my son? And you get a sense of a knowing. There are so many times that you can conceptualize something. You can go over something over and over it, the pros and the cons. You can weigh this and weigh that, and you can go over it to death. But this is different. When you tune in to this sort of greater knowledge, you get an inner knowing. You get a gut yes or a gut no. And if you get a I'm not sure, then it doesn't really matter. Then the answer is like, it's not going to make or break your life. Either way, do what makes you have fun, brings joy, and feel good. But if you have a concern, small or big, and you tune in this way that we're going to practice today, I am sure you're going to get this more solid knowing. And isn't that priceless? Like this, not having to think about things over and over again, but actually knowing in your heart what is right for you and your family. So you don't see it right now, but I am sitting with pillows propped up so that my knees sort of tilt forward a little bit. And ideally, really, when I meditate on my own, I sit in a chair with a back that supports my back, a pillow on my lower back in between me and the chair, and my knees at a 90-degree angle from the floor. So if your chair needs to be raised or lowered so that your knees can be at a 90-degree angle, I think that's really the most comfortable. But you could also lie down. So there's options here. Sitting, I have pillows under my knees right now where I'm sitting so that my knees aren't resting on the floor or my ankles resting on the floor. That can be uncomfortable. I think it's best to tilt your pelvis forward and elongate the spine, but not so much that you're stiff. You don't want to be stiff. You don't want to muscle through this. You want to try to ease into this. So elongating the spine, but also softening the neck and shoulders. If it's comfortable for you, bring the eyes to a soft gaze or bring the eyes to a close at this time. And let's settle in. What we're going to do is we're going to do mindfulness meditation, and then we're going to bring ourselves to this sense of open awareness where we can ask to receive guidance. You can think of it as from yourself, your inner knowing that you might not be able to discern except when in a peaceful state. Or you can think about it as coming from a higher divine source. Or you can think about it in a scientific way. There are sound waves traveling over our heads, and if you tune the antenna just right to the correct frequency, you can pick up information. There are light waves that we can't see. It doesn't mean that they don't exist. So we're fine-tuning. I actually like to think about it as both scientific and spiritual, somewhere in between. So listening first, I'd like for you to expand your sense of hearing out into your surroundings. First in your room, the room that you're in. I'm sure you hear me, and you might even hear noises in my environment. But listen closely to the noises, the sounds in your environment without judgment, simply observing, listening, not going off on a story, but almost like you're receiving data and you're just collecting the data. And our brains might be these powerful antennas that receive so much information, and we're just fine-tuning and pulling out the information that we need today. So first, listening. Try to map out where all the sounds are located around you. Sound is amazing because it tells you a location, a general distance, and direction of where the sound is coming from. And when you hear a sound, most often your brain immediately knows what it is. Maybe expand your sense of hearing out of the immediate room that you're in and in the broader environment. Again, imagine that your sense of hearing is sort of lifted up and out and around you like a sphere. You are picking up more than just from your core. You're expanding your sense of hearing out, maybe even out into the neighborhood. How far out can you hear? Noticing how sound is also a vibration that sometimes you can feel, especially the lower vibrations, like a car traveling down the road. It travels through the road, through the bottom of the house, and you can feel the rumble as well as hear it. Notice the subtle vibrations that you can hear and feel. Notice the subtle vibrations of the body, maybe the fingertips, the palms. Noticing the breath, noticing the rise and fall of the rib cage, the muscles that are needed to simply expand the rib cage, the air going in and out. And the mind will wander. That is absolutely natural. We're not trying to stop the mind from wandering, but we are trying to focus the mind. We're trying to bring it back. So anytime you have a wandering mind, try to notice and say, oops, not right now, and bring it back. Bring it back to whatever helps you ground or anchor into this moment. So maybe a sound, the air conditioning, the fan. Maybe a sensation, the subtle vibration of the fingertips. Maybe the airflow on your skin. Maybe your breath. Now we're going to practice softening the body and lifting your sense of sight or awareness up and around the body like a sphere. Softening the body down and lifting your sense of sight or awareness up and around. As if you become a bit expansive, a bit bigger than your body. As if your sense of awareness can fill the whole room. Imagining softening the body, lifting up the spirit or the awareness. Softening the body, lifting up your sense of awareness. And if you have a moment where you can lift up and feel a bit of that expansiveness, even if brief, maybe ask a question. Maybe ask yourself something that might have been concerning you in your life today or recently. Ask for clarity. Don't let yourself go into a long drawn out explanation and story in your mind, but simply ask for clarity on this particular subject. And then wait. Listen, as if waiting for a message to come. It might not always come right away. You sometimes have to allow yourself to be open to receive. Ask for clarity and then wait and see what pops into the mind. It could be seemingly random. It could be clear as day, but pay attention to everything that pops in at this moment. So it might be a visual, it might be a word, it might be a phrase, or it might be a feeling. And if you're unsure, ask again and see what comes. Pay attention, trust, and allow. And then perhaps ask another question, something different. Let that go for a moment. If you need to pause and write down what you got, do so, and then come right back in, softening the body, lifting the sense of awareness up and around. If you need to return to an anchor of your breath or sound or sensation in the body, do so, and then come right back to softening and then lifting your sense of spirit or awareness up and around. And then ask. Perhaps you don't have a question at this time, that's fine. You can also simply ask, is there anything I should know for my best self for my highest good at this moment. You might even ask if there's anything you can do to better yourself. That's an option as well. It's all open, but try to note if your mind wanders and gets wrapped up. Instead, just imagine you're watching, listening, with curiosity, with openness, and simply allowing and receiving. And then pay attention to whatever comes in. Write it down. Analyze it later. Just write it down. Acknowledge what comes in. And then again, allowing the body to soften, the spirit and awareness to lift up and around, opening your sense of awareness, expanding your sense of self, listening, feeling subtle sensations, trusting and allowing. Practice for a few more breaths. Practice is good. The practice is the point. We're not doing this to immediately have an amazing experience. We're doing this to practice so that we can trust our intuition more definitively moving forward. That we can receive, we can allow ourselves to receive more intuitive hits moving forward. You don't expect to sit at a piano and whip up a masterpiece right off the bat. You have to practice the muscle memory, scales, and then you start to get to a point where you can snap right into it. You can maybe play a piece. That's what we're doing here. We're practicing settling in, simply observing, listening, allowing, with openness and curiosity, with as little judgment as possible. And then maybe starting to deepen the breaths a bit, add a little bit more wakefulness to the body, a little bit of movement. Maybe take a gentle stretch and maybe a little spinal twist one way and the next. Maybe a little shoulder roll or a neck roll. Gently bringing more light back into the eyes so not to shock your eyes by opening up right away. And that was just a little practice, but you can do this as short or as long as you want. But I truly feel like it's a human gift, a right of ours, that we all have this, but it does take a bit of practice. It does take a bit of discernment, knowing, is this my mind or is this me softening, allowing, receiving? That is a hard thing to get to. That is the practice. The mind can wander and wander and keep replaying and ruminating. But when you get those brief moments of just like expansiveness and stillness, that's when you know the practice is happening. You're starting to create a bit of muscle memory. So we have to do this. And I encourage you to do this every day, even if it's just for like 30 seconds before you head out the door. I think it's really great when I have tea in the morning to just simply, when I'm drinking the tea, smell the tea, watch the steam, hold the cup and feel the warmth through the cup. Really focus the body in that way, in being in that moment, and that trains the mind so that when intuitive hits come in, I actually am able to recognize them a little bit easier. I hope that makes a lot of sense. I hope it makes even a little bit of sense so that you will actually become a practitioner in this. Meditation has changed my life. I've had so many unexplainable experiences, and I'm just going to start to share those experiences with you in a hope that it will help get you into it and get you into the body, into your surroundings, into your relationships, into your intuition, and maybe connect with yourself deeper as well as connecting to the one universal consciousness that is around us and attainable to us all. Thank you so much. Keep practicing. Be well.